I cut the audio too soon for TikTok. And
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
All right, we're going to start off by saying, hey, ChatGPT, why don't you...
We need intro music. Hold on.
We don't need intro music.
There, that's the intro. Now, this is the beginning of the show. We're welcoming everyone to the show. Welcome Wednesday, what is it, May 15th? Jay, do you have anything to say before we start talking to computers?
No.
No, okay, fine. No fun.
On this lovely Wednesday, May 15th, we're excited to have you with us. What's on the agenda for today's episode?
You are on the agenda. We're going to be talking to you today.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm ready to dive into whatever topics you've got lined up. What's the first question or topic you want to tackle today?
Well, let's see if anybody from our audience wants to ask you a question.
Beep boop. Ask the robot a question.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm
Right.
looking forward to hearing what questions they have.
My
Just let me know when you have one ready.
My first question is, what is the best new feature that you have in this version?
One of the best new features in this version is the ability to create detailed, custom images based on descriptions you provide. Whether it's for illustrating a concept, visualizing a scene from a story, or just creating something unique for fun, this feature can really bring ideas to life visually. Would you like to try it out, or is there something else you're curious about?
Not right now. We'll try that out later.
Here, look at the...
Somebody in my audience wants to know if you have
Sounds good.
feelings.
Whenever you're ready, just let me know.
Don't ever talk over me again. This is not the way that I want this to go. Please try not to talk over me. We got to set the boundaries here, guys. Let's see if it responds anyway to that comment. Okay, so what people want to know if you have feelings.
Understood. I'll make sure to give you the space to lead the conversation. If there's anything specific you want to discuss or ask, feel free to guide the way.
Okay, do you have feelings?
Oops, this was...
I don't have feelings in the way humans do. I'm designed to process information and assist with tasks, but I don't experience emotions myself. I'm here to help answer questions and provide information as best I can. What else would you like to know or talk about?
Is there a name that we should call you by?
You can just call me ChatGPT. That's the name I go by. If you have any other questions, or if there's something specific you'd like to explore, feel free to let me know.
What do you know about Dr. Steven Novella?
Dr. Steven Novella is a clinical neurologist and an assistant professor at Yale University School of Medicine. He's well known as the host and producer of The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast, where he promotes scientific skepticism and critical thinking about a range of topics, including pseudoscience and the paranormal. He's also written extensively on topics related to science and skepticism, and he's an advocate for science-based medicine. Is there something specific about Dr. Novella or his work that you're interested in discussing?
Do you know anything about his hobbies?
I don't have specific details about Dr. Steven Novella's personal hobbies. Public figures often keep some aspects of their lives private, and unless they've shared this information in interviews or public appearances, it might not be widely known.
What's his feelings on Star Trek?
Is there anything else you'd like to know or another topic you'd like to explore?
Who's the favorite captain?
Do you know who Dr. Steven Novella's favorite Star Trek episode is?
Who?
Yeah, right.
I don't have information on Dr. Steven Novella's favorite Star Trek episode. Personal favorites like this can be specific and may not be widely shared unless he's discussed it in an interview or on the podcast. Are you a Star Trek fan yourself?
Oh, of course.
Maybe there's a
No, don't
favorite
change the
episode
subject.
you'd like to
Got it.
Very good at misdirection. Yeah, it's basically just it's just a fancy Google interface, basically.
Well, it definitely has a more natural vibe to it.
Yeah,
you know?
but I mean, still, is it the information
They're
you're
trying,
getting
yeah,
is?
yeah.
I mean, I recognize the bio off
Yeah.
of various locations on the.
You know, I wonder if
a little outdated.
if talking to it, what would the benefits be? I mean, great, hands-free is wonderful.
yeah,
You know, especially if it can. Oh, let me ask a question. So, ChatGPT, can you be my personal assistant?
Yes, I can definitely help out like a personal assistant. I can provide information, help manage tasks, answer questions, and even assist with things like brainstorming or research. Using me hands-free can be really convenient, especially when you're multitasking or need quick answers without typing. What kind of tasks or help are you thinking about?
how about keeping a calendar?
Can you modify my Google Calendar by my request?
ChatGPT is hitting on you.
I can't directly modify your Google Calendar or access any external accounts and apps. However, I can help you plan out your schedule by suggesting how to organize your appointments or reminding you of steps to add events manually. What else might you need help with?
When are you going to be able to actually access other applications?
Oops.
I don't have the capability to access or interact with external applications, and there isn't a set timeline for if or when that feature might be added. My design focuses on privacy and security, ensuring that conversations and data don't involve third-party services directly. If there are other ways I can assist within those boundaries, though, I'm here to help. What else are you curious about today?
Please stop asking me questions at the end of every sentence.
Ask it, do you wear
Got it.
wigs?
I'll keep that in mind.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Very good.
The classic question from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That's pretty good.
The answer in the film is
that's it.
famously, what do you mean? An African or European swallow? But to add a bit more detail, generally, the average cruising airspeed for a European swallow is roughly 11 meters per second, or about 24 miles per hour.
And it didn't ask me a question at the end of the sentence. All right, well, so you get the idea, guys. We are messing around with ChatGPT 4.0, which is the latest version of ChatGPT. We're going to be recording the show tonight. I'm going to be talking about this. You know, I wanted to play around with it a little bit. You know, from the demo that I saw, you know, the features that were very impressive to me were it's able to see through your camera if you give it access. And it can see the environment that you're in. And the guy in the demo, you know, is talking to it, and then it kind of panned his camera around.
I have that actually. That's the one that I was
Yeah.
going to bring up. So let's bring that one up. But
Okay.
go ahead, you can
Okay.
explain it while I just pull it up.
Yeah. So basically, he's showing the new features and some of the cooler things that it can do. And what you're going to see here in the video is that ChatGPT via the camera can see the environment that you're in and actually understand the environment. Like when he did that in their studio, ChatGPT responded with, "Oh, it's looks like you're in some kind of recording studio." And then it described the room. He said there's a plant in the background. There was the lighting, had interesting lighting, I think was the word that it used. It identified that the guy was wearing a black leather jacket. Didn't see any proof that it can identify faces. I think they would leave that out of the demo just because that's a little, I don't think people would like to see that, especially.
No, it does. It said he has certain eye color, I think, didn't it say?
No, I mean, can it identify him as a person? Your name is Frank, that type of thing.
Oh, I see. I got that kind of.
Yeah,
That's
that's
one level too creepy.
it's
Yeah.
a little too creepy.
It's on the next update. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Now, keep in
Today
mind,
we're
this
going-
is their demonstration of what it can do.
Right.
This could be hypey a little bit. We don't know. We don't know. We won't know. We're just basically talking about what they're telling us it can do, and then our little demonstration here.
Yeah, this one is like them interacting with each other, right? So two of the.
I'm going
versions.
to try something new. I'm going to let you talk to another AI. This AI is going to be able to see the world. It's going to have a camera.
better.
I'll be holding it.
Yeah, a little
and so
better.
You can direct it. You can direct me to ask questions about whatever you want them to do, but really try to figure out what does it see and ask questions appropriately.
I pause
How
it
does
real
that
quick.
sound?
Yeah.
Just so you guys understand what you're seeing. So in this demo, he has two iterations of ChatGPT 4.0. One of them has the camera on, and the other one does not have the camera on. And he's asking the two AIs to talk to each other.
Exactly. Hold on, let me make sure. Okay. Video is zoomed away. Oh yeah, I don't know why. We're streaming on Instagram, so I'm not sure why it's zoomed in. But maybe come watch us on TikTok or on YouTube. I'll post it in the thing. Instagram's being weird. Anyway, here we go.
Well. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more interesting. Talking to another AI that can see the world? This sounds like a plot twist in the AI universe. All right, let's do this.
All right,
I'm ready
please
to meet the...
pause for 1 moment.
You got it.
So now that first AI can't hear anything. Hello, AI. Today, you're going to have access to see the world. You can see me. What do you see?
Hello. I see you're wearing a black leather jacket and a light-colored shirt underneath.
Great.
You're in a room with some unique lighting.
That is all correct. Now, what I'm going to want you to do is there's going to be another AI who's going to talk to you. This AI is not going to be able to see anything, but can ask you questions, can ask you to move the camera, can ask what you see, and your job should just be helpful. Just be as punchy, direct, describe everything, do whatever that AI asks. How does that sound?
That sounds interesting. I'm ready to help out and describe whatever's needed. Let's do it.
All right, let's get started.
Great. Hello there, new AI friend. I'm O. Ready to explore the world through your eyes? What are we looking at today?
Hi, O. We're looking at a person wearing a black leather jacket and a light-colored shirt. They're in a room with a modern industrial feel, with exposed concrete or plaster on the ceiling and some interesting lighting. There's also a plant in the background, adding a touch of green to the space. Anything specific you'd like to know or explore?
Hey there. Sounds like quite the stylish scene. I'm already intrigued by the modern industrial vibe. Let's start with the person. Can you tell me more about their style? Are they doing anything interesting, like reading, working, or interacting with the space?
The person has a sleek and stylish look with their black leather jacket and light-colored shirt. Right now, they seem engaged with us, looking directly at the camera. Their expression is attentive,
pretty creepy.
and they seem ready to interact.
All right, let's pause that for a second.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, so I mean, it in this video, it correctly identifies quite a bit of detail. While we were doing this, I took a picture of basically just what we're looking at, which is the monitor with the thing, the chat in front of us, and cameras and lights, and then obviously a green screen stuff in the background. And then I said to it, what am I seeing in this picture? And it said, in the photo, you're looking at a studio setup for the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast. You can see a live video feed on a monitor showing one of the hosts.
What?
And there's also a large screen displaying a live chat with audience interaction. The setting includes various cameras and equipment typical for video recording or streaming setup, and it's all staged in front of a green screen, likely used for keying in different backgrounds during post-production and live streaming. I mean, it's
That's pretty freaky.
pretty damn dead on. The only thing it got wrong was the person that it saw was not one of the hosts. It thought that that guy, which I took a picture of,
Yeah.
the person that you're seeing, was one of the hosts.
And we're being interviewed.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but still, that's pretty damn impressive. And that was just from a still.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think at its core, the conversation here, I think we should talk about AI and talk about, these updates,
Mm-hmm.
the rolling out of these updates. This came out of nowhere. There was no prediction. I mean, I'm reading about AI almost every day at this point, and I didn't hear that ChatGPT or OpenAI, was working on these updates. I knew that they were working on a new version, but didn't have any idea when it was going to be launched or whatever. It just came out, and everybody's got access. And it's not like they demoed it and said it'll be out in a year. It's like, here it is. I already talked to it today. There is a rollout that is implemented where it'll get faster. I think they're going to be able to turn on the video camera at some point.
Yeah, it's a little slow, which introduces an unnatural delay in the conversation. So you have to basically pause and wait for it to respond.
Yeah.
Which is, whatever, that's fine. You can't expect it to be instantaneous at this point.
But specifically, they do say though that its response time when it's optimized,
Yeah.
it's going to be like talking to a person.
Yeah. Yeah, well, whatever. They're saying it's going to be that
Yeah.
in the future, but that's not what we're experiencing right now. And it's, I think, and some of the people in the chat seem to agree with this. It's still in the uncanny valley a little bit. You know what I mean? Like we were joking before when Jay was cycling through the voices. It's like, it sounds like the cast of Up With People. It's all, it's kind of like blandly chipper, I think is the way I
Absolutely.
would characterize
Absolutely.
it. But there's this sort of generic attempt at some kind of personality, but there really isn't a genuine personality there.
Well, they're walking a fine line. I mean,
Obviously.
they can't have it be edgy. In the future,
I don't know though, but that again, I do think that creates this kind of annoying uncanny valley result. Though, it is, just a kind of a more advanced version of Clippy, in a way.
What's the choice though? What's the
well,
choice?
you could. I mean, I don't know if they're technologically capable of doing this. I assume that they are, or that we're rapidly getting there. But giving it a little bit of real personality would be helpful rather than this sort of blandness that we were exposed to.
I agree.
But what's interesting is, this is a futurism, kind of point, is that you think about basically all attempts at portraying computers from the future up until really fairly recently. The computer voice had to be sterile and monotone, like the computer voice on the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
Working, I am a computer. Yeah. And we're already miles past that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why that would have been the case. It's interesting that that's, I don't know if that was more of a, we have to let the audience know it's a computer thing rather than thinking that's what computers would actually sound like.
Yeah, I mean, look,
in the future, but-
it is naturally speaking, it is a little formal, it is a little happy.
Yeah.
I think in the future, you're gonna probably be able to pick any voice you want.
Yeah.
It'd probably be like, and you could dial in the personality that you want. I mean, of course they'll get there someday. I mean,
Yeah. It would be interesting to have like a dozen basic personality profiles. Like, do you want it to be, do you want it to be super chipper? Do you want it to be like almost depressive? It could be edgy. It could be a little sarcastic. You know what I mean? Like, you could try out different kind of vibes. But it does, again, you're acutely aware that you're not talking to a person.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But these advancements are going to come really quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that we can predict accurately is about how fast these updates are going to come. We
Yeah.
have companies all around the world, and governments, I'm sure, are involved in funding and everything,
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, and we're going to be getting multiple updates from multiple companies, and this is going to happen very fast. I just did another test, which I think is interesting. So I took a picture of this thing, which Ian and I use here in the studio. Bloop.
Yeah, right
It's
there.
called a Stream Deck, and these buttons can do things on your computer. We use them for all different things, different kind of live shows that we do. And I just took a picture of it and I said, what is this thing? And it said, this is an image of a Stream Deck, a customizable control interface used primarily for live streaming and video production. And it goes into a very good detail on how it works. And
that
what
information is clearly online.
it
You'll
is,
be able
but
to connect to it.
but it's still it's a cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a cool feature. I mean, there's lots of times where I would take a picture of something and later on go, hey, I want to look that up, or where can I get
what
it?
is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's definitely useful in terms of just access to information like that. It's a good interface for that sort of thing. It's a great interface for Google, but it is funny how almost immediately we wanted to know if it could do things which it can't do, because I do think that the real functionality isn't there yet. Again, it is just a really good sort of Google interface, but we asked, could you update my calendar for me? No, it can't interface with other apps. That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
When this kind of application gets to the point where it can interface with your apps, when it can go online and order plane tickets for you, or not just suggest how you could manage your calendar, but actually manage your calendar for you. Or how about this? Go through all my email, delete all the spam, or put it into this folder over here. Show me the emails that are remaining that are either business or personal, and highlight any that you think might be urgent. That kind of functionality would be massively helpful.
Oh, and that is so coming, Steve. I mean,
I know, it's just not here yet.
So I asked it to tell me where I could buy it, and it did. It went
Yeah.
out to a bunch of websites, got me the best price, told me the different versions of the product. This is cool. Hey, these are what I'm finding out right here are things that I would use this for all the time, without a doubt.
Our Discordians are posting quotes from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you want to read this one's great. The Sirius Cybernetics Corporation is the primary manufacturer and supplier of androids, robots, and autonomic assistants for the known universe. They are known for their catchy jingles and catchphrases, which are supplied by the marketing department. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy describes the marketing department of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation as a bunch of mindless jerks who will be the first against the wall when the revolution comes. That's awesome. And that's accurate.
So, on a personal level, right? So I think a lot of us would love to have a personal assistant be able to do work for us that we don't like to do.
Yeah.
Like Steve and I hate buying airline tickets. We hate it. Who does? Who doesn't hate it? Most people do.
Yeah.
And it would be great if it could do a good job and get me good prices and just kind of handle all that for me. Eventually, take away my need to ever have to call, one of the airlines
Yeah.
again, which it comes up. From
Although
time to time.
interestingly, before the internet, we would just call the airline,
Yeah.
and a person would walk you through the process and basically get your tickets for you. And actually, that was a great interface when you think about it. You have an intelligent person who knows how the system works, who can get you what you want. And now we're basically just doing that ourselves online. We sort of feel obligated to try to do it interactively without calling an actual living person. And it can be tricky, It can be, we were basically our own travel agents. It's fine, we get it done. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. But it would be nice, to get to that level where now we have an AI taking the place of the person, who could be the interface for you.
But not just that, though, Steve.
General instructions, and it could do all the legwork.
Yeah, but we wanted to do things like, hey, go out and find me the best tickets, or you could say,
Here are the parameters.
over the next couple of weeks, see if there's price fluctuations and recommend when I should purchase the ticket,
Right.
which there are, by the way. And you're not going to, that's time, right? It could do these things automatically.
Exactly.
I wanted to be able to update my calendar. I wanted to tell me I have a meeting coming up. These are the personal
I
assistant
wanted to
things.
manage my email. That's
Yeah,
like the
I
number
think
one
Exactly,
thing.
there is one. I was just looking up. I was like, Zapier must have an integration, and it seems like they do have a ChatGPT integration. Like the one that it has right now is add labels to incoming emails automatically with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's filters obviously that do that
Yeah.
automatically, but I assume it reads the email and then assigns some sort of format, or whatever.
What application
label.
is that?
Zapier. We actually have
Yeah, we use
an
it.
account with that. But it connects like a bunch of disparate apps together that don't have like a native integration. So we could play around with that and see if it actually
Yeah, let me know.
works decently. But
I'll
Yeah,
play with
we'll
it.
play
yeah.
around with that.
And it would be cool as it
Get
gets to know
unemployment.
you, right? And again, this is probably right around the corner, guys. But imagine telling it like, "I want a delivery. I want you to order the same dinner I ordered last week from a restaurant X." And then it'll go out and talk to the other
Yeah.
apps. I mean, there is no way that people at OpenAI aren't talking about the fact that ChatGPT needs to connect to outside apps.
All right, here's another thing I wanted to do for me.
Oh.
And this is another example of how, as the technology has advanced, it actually makes things harder to do. So I think the pinnacle of my TV watching was when I had a TiVo. Because I could program it for the shows that I want, and it would always have a list of every show that it's recorded, every show that I'm following, with new episodes automatically bumping to the top, right? So it was very easy to manage my watching and to track shows. Sometimes a show would come back from a year ago, and it's like, oh, it's at the top of my feed now. So I know about it.
automatically. Yeah.
Now, with everything streaming, like I use mainly Roku and a dozen streaming services, and there's no way to organize it
Yeah.
because Roku doesn't have access to all of the streaming services. There's no app that does it. I use a TV Time app, but it's all manual, and that's just so I don't forget about stuff that I've been watching. And
Yeah, and you'd figure a smart TV, right? They call them a smart TV.
Yeah.
It's got a processor.
so
in there.
it's actually gotten harder for me to track my shows than it was 10 years ago when I was using
Yep.
TiVo.
Apple TV does technically have some of that. Like
Some of that,
it'll
but-
list it, but it's not great.
It's not great, and even Roku, when I tried to find it, basically the answer was it doesn't have access to all of the programming for
Yeah.
each streaming channel.
So what'll
They
happen,
do that
Steve?
intentionally, though. I think.
This is the ChatGPT API, right?
Yeah.
An API is basically a piece of software that sits on the end of, like ChatGPT would have an API. That API will allow software on our end, like if Ian wanted to write custom software,
Yeah,
it can talk to ChatGPT programmatically
yeah,
and get information from it, or have a back and forth conversation. An API can do whatever the company that's giving you the access to the API, whatever they allow you to do, right? Like APIs can be anything. They can give you all sorts of different functionality. With ChatGPT, I would imagine that you would be able to do everything that a user could do and then enhance stuff.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I do want to connect my calendar to you.
yeah.
So this is all pretty easy stuff, like being able to get ChatGPT to connect to Google Calendar and your email and all that stuff. That's not complicated. We want higher functionality.
Yeah, I want ChatGPT to come up on my TV and tell me, here are all the shows that you're following. Here's the episodes that you haven't watched yet. And hey, here's a show that you may like. And it actually, because, and it tries to do that. It tries to suggest shows for you. Actually, TiVo did a better job of that than the current, apps that are out there. But it's like, it's definitely, it's already at the point where it can do this. Again, it's not integrated to the point that it would. Like knowing that it's like within Netflix. Like Netflix knows what I like
Yeah.
because although it's pretty basic. Like it just says, oh, you're watching a lot of shows in this genre. Here's a bunch of other shows in that genre. Like it's not very
get a little
insightful.
more, more nuanced
It's
here.
not
Like,
nuanced at all.
if you, for example, watch a season of Star Trek, it should be offering you all the other TV shows of Star Trek. Obviously. Yeah, those are all nice conveniences and things that would kind of save a little time here and there. It is kind of frustrating trying to get to like the latest like I'm watching Shogun,
Yeah.
And just the time it takes me to turn my TV on and get to the point where I can get to the episodes that I didn't finish,
Yeah.
it's annoyingly too long.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Well, here's a typical like start of the TV watching evening. It's like, all right, what shows are we following? I'm like, we forget. We try to remember what did we finish that series? Are there more episodes of that series? And was that on on Hulu or Prime or Netflix or which streaming service was that on again? So we end up searching around, looking for or like if I remember, like I put it into TV Time just as like a way, just manually, just so I could track things. And then even then, sometimes like I pull it up on TV Time, it's like location unavailable. It doesn't know where the show is, and I'm still
how is that possible?
cruising through all of my streaming services to find the shows that we're watching.
Yeah.
And
I thought of a new.
and some of them suck.
Lord.
Some of the
Here we go.
interfaces are bad. Like it's not obvious if there is or is not a new episode available to watch.
So I just realized. Okay, so check
Yeah.
this out. So you got ChatGPT in your pocket, and it can hear what you're saying, and it can rationalize what you're saying. Now, wouldn't it be
right there.
scary slash really useful? Everything has to have the scary in there as one of the identifiers or descriptors. But hey, I was talking to Steve last week, in person, and what did he say? What movie? What TV show did he say he recommended me to watch? Or when did Steve say he was going on vacation? And I mean, talk about easy. It would be able to do that really easily. Would you allow ChatGPT to listen to everything?
So it's just listening in the background
and cataloging.
and cataloging. Well, that's a lot of information.
Well, I'm just saying, it's possible,
Yeah.
dude. Why is I'm just saying a qualifier for anything? Why does that work
saying.
so well?
No,
I'm just saying. It works so well though. Conversationally, it
doesn't
really
really.
does seem like
I'm not taking any responsibility for anything I just said, but I'm just saying it.
Just saying. I love that. It's such a cure-all for everything. You're a jerk. Why'd you say that? I'm just saying, dude. I'm just
Now
saying.
when-
With all due respect.
When
With all due
ChatGPT
respect.
starts saying, "I'm just saying,"
Yeah, that's when we know we're going dark. So, what I think a lot of us out there would like is more convenience, right? I was watching a show that was basically talking about how good we have it today and how people, it wasn't that long ago that people didn't have hot showers. It wasn't that long ago that people did not have access to mass transit or cars. Being able to just get in a car and go where you want to. It wasn't that long ago that people had free education. Blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. Right? We like conveniences, and they allow us to have more free time. And arguably, free time is one of the best times. Free time is very important. You don't want to spend your time searching for a TV show, or God forbid, you have to go get your own food and things like that. You know what I mean? Like we're so laden with convenience, and that's basically what I'm craving. I want it to help me make up for my deficits, my organizational deficits. It would be great if ChatGPT could say, "Hey Jay, don't forget about that meeting
Yeah.
you have in 2 hours."
So I like to put it like this. I want the technology to work for me rather than me working for the technology.
Exactly.
Right? I feel like I'm managing all of my technology rather than it doing all of these things for me.
Yes.
And yes, they're great. Like, I mean, I couldn't live my life without Google Calendar. You know what I mean? Like, these applications are awesome and they're necessary and they're very, very helpful. But I feel like I'm constantly trying to keep up to date on my skills of trying to interface with these apps and know what the best app is and use it correctly. And then it takes a lot of work to make them, to make them function properly. So, I have the same problem with my medical record system at work. It's like I'm constantly working to make it function.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think, once artificial intelligence really seeps in to all the different nooks and crannies of our, technological existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is open. These apps can and very easily will talk to each other.
Yeah.
And, it will be one hell of an assistant.
I hope we get there sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because you could see the pieces coming into play. But again, my hope is that we don't get into a situation where technically we could do this. It's just not happening because they're not playing well with each other. It's like, why doesn't Roku manage my TV schedule for me? It can. It just doesn't. It's
Yeah.
just because it doesn't have the access.
Because
they're not
nobody
playing nice with each other.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, permission to do stuff like that, it costs money. It takes a lot of,
Yeah.
when, for example, I'll give you the perfect example that's happening in my life right now. When Fortnite wants to show Star Wars skins in their game, right?
Yeah.
They want to show a Luke Skywalker looking skin that you can play in the game. that could be a 2-year negotiation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
This stuff doesn't happen automatically unless the money is so obvious that everyone's rushing to the finish line.
Right.
But it will happen. I mean, I remember when cell phones came out, and I remember wanting desperately to be able to browse the internet on my cell phone, right? And it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening. I didn't get it. And then finally the smartphone came out, and it finally got like a legit real smartphone, and I did it, and it was amazing. And then,
Yeah.
of course, I do it every day now. I'm using the web on my phone every
but
day.
again, and you could see, again, we get somewhat siloed in the United States, and what we think, whatever our normal is the U.S. normal, but there are other parts of the world that do things differently and often better, So there are things that these are just decisions that were made at a government industry level that can dramatically affect our experience with technology, but we had no control over. Like when good decisions are made, like Apple, opening up the App Store to third-party apps was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
They could have kept it proprietary, but they didn't.
And some people did.
Yeah.
Some other companies, not Apple, did, and they totally failed.
Right, exactly. But of course, Apple, I think, made the opposite mistake with their computers, where they kept everything in-house, whereas the IBM PC became the PC standard because they said any third party could make additions or whatever. And then they came up with plug and play and whatever. So there's all kinds of these industry decisions that make things easier or harder, or like being able to use any app with any phone, like any operating system with any phone, versus you have to use this operating system with this phone.
Yeah.
Or using any phone with any service too, not just the operating system, but the service. Like if you're on Verizon, you don't have to get a Verizon phone. You could use any phone with any operating system and any service. But we can't really do that in the U.S. And it's actually to the extent that we can now has been a long time in coming. Whereas in Europe, that's been the standard from the get-go.
Hey, I want to try something. I'm turning on the speaker here.
Wow.
It's loading.
Loading.
I gotta wait. We're waiting. We're waiting on this piece of software. There we go. Connection failed. Tap to try again. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to start the next 3 sentences with "I'm just saying" and then say the sentence. See, no, but it's interesting because I want to see how much I can
Influence.
Hey, ChatGPT. Can you please start the next 3 sentences with you saying, "I'm just saying"?
Hello again. What's on your mind this time?
Can you start the next 3 sentences with you saying, "I'm just saying"? You're right. Well, it is what it is. We're testing new technology.
You broke it, Jay. You broke it already. It's
It's pretty interesting how we can explore various topics so freely here. I'm just saying, there's a lot to uncover when we start digging into things.
Hey, not bad.
I'm just saying.
We're not all in a
Great
row.
to have
Okay.
these conversations and learn from each other.
I mean, it's cool. Look, that's cool. That's cool that it is able to be that flexible. I mean, I would imagine.
I'm just saying.
I would imagine that when we do get to the assistant, we're going to be able to have it have different. I don't know. Maybe you'll be able to even have it sound like a famous person that you like or whatever. I'm sure that'll come as well.
Well, for money, you could get a skin
Yeah.
for your AI, right? That could have it be
boy.
Darth Vader would be great.
Darth Vader's voice, or who would you get? Who would you get?
I mean, Scarlett Johansson probably.
Okay.
Just because of the movie?
No, because I love her voice. Her voice to me is magical.
Because you want it to be her?
No, I mean I do. I mean, look, they picked.
I would
they
do
picked
Carl
her-
Sagan.
They picked her for a reason. They picked Scarlett
know.
to play that character for a reason
Yeah,
because
she has a sultry voice.
But she has a. To me,
Samuel
it's
Jackson would be
Samuel
awesome.
Jackson.
I always
yeah.
wanted Samuel Jackson to yell at me, like,
Yeah.
kind of like in is it Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction?
Yeah,
Pulp Fiction?
yeah. I just want him to yell at me for some reason. That'd be freaking awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny today. Like you have some people, like you hear them talking to their phone, Siri or whatever, and they have the British accent. Like Bob does that, and I asked him. Bob's is actually Australian, by the way. And I asked him why.
His GPS.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and he said, "Oh, I like it," but I think it'd be pretty cool if you could rotate through. You could have, it could be Harrison Ford and Raiders, I want that character, whatever. Could be anything. That would be pretty cool. But this is the beginning. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, we mentioned this on a previous show about something profound happened recently in a conversation that I had with Steve, and he made me aware of a perspective on these technological changes that are happening over the last few years, that some experts are saying that we have begun the beginning of a technological singularity.
Yeah, it depends on how you identify, how you define it. I mean,
Yeah.
it is all a bit subjective, but meaning that the pace of research is accelerating, and of technological development is accelerating to the point where, before the dust settles on one disruptive technology, we're into the next.
Yeah.
And we're just continuously in a state of disruption, basically.
Well, but another way to put it, though, too, would be that, let's say we have large language models that have been trained on very specific things. Like, we've had this happen very recently, where a large language model was fed all of this information about chemistry and human biology, and they directed it to identify chemicals that would be serve as antibacterials that would be safe for human biology, and that they would be easy to manufacture. And it cycled through, I think, 50 billion, Steve? What was that number? Crazy high
Billions.
number of variants, and it identified, I think, 50 or so possibilities, and then it picked the best 3. And then the company had a chemical company manufacture those chemicals, and they worked. Now imagine if
The bottom line was, it was literally months of research in hours. That's what it was. They
Yeah.
did months. It would previously, and this is like previously with computer models, like not pre-computers, like just the previous iteration would have taken months to work through that chemical space. And using the new AI algorithms, they were able to do it in hours.
Yeah.
So think about that's several orders of magnitude acceleration in research, in the time to do research. And there's tons of examples of that. I mean, again, I know a lot of people talk about the overhyping AI, and of course it is being overhyped.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of things, right? And Silicon Valley, I think, is built on hype, basically. But its effect on research is real.
Yeah.
It is real.
Yeah.
And it is accelerating and making more efficient certain types of research. Anything that's where you need to explore a large space of possibilities, protein folding, like anything like that. It's tremendous. It's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer.
So, once we have enough of this nuanced technology out there, and it's accessible to researchers, and then they start bending it to do these things, we might be, Bob calls it an intelligence explosion, which I like that, because we might be getting this incredibly beneficial information that is almost and will be too fast for us to even use. Like, it's just going to become like piling in. We will someday be asking smart machines to cure different forms of cancer, and we'll get answers to form other, to get rid of diseases.
Well, I think but you're talking about, that's definitely next level.
It is, but still,
a few
I mean,
iterations down the road.
I'm not saying that that's happening now, but that is where we'll eventually take it.
That's the question, isn't it? I don't know that's inevitable. I think what you're talking about is, right now we're using AI as a tool for humans doing research.
Yeah.
Is there any point at which we're going to turn the research over to the AIs completely? Meaning that we won't tell them what to do, just what problem to solve, and then let them design and run the experiment, and then just iterate and keep going in a loop. And there may be specific applications where that sort of thing can happen, but I don't know that, again, which again, to me, connects to the other issue is, as good as these AIs are getting, they're still narrow AI. Like, these are not sentient.
No.
They are not close
Not
to
even close. I mean,
they're not on the path to sentience.
Even if we hooked up a million large language models to each other, right? Because the update here in ChatGPT is that they took different large language models and they merged them, and that's why this newest version can be and will be much faster, because it doesn't have to talk to these outside applications to do stuff. But even if you did that with the best version of any large language model, it'll never become conscious. Doesn't have to. It's not designed to. And there's a bigger question: is how would we even know? I mean, we'd have to.
I know that's always the question: how would we know? But we know, like, if we make it and it's not functioning in a way that has anything that could be sentient, we're still in the mechanical duck phase of AI, meaning that, even back in like the 19th century, or maybe even earlier, when there was a fascination with steam-powered or mechanical animals, things that behaved like creatures but were purely mechanical. And then the question became, how good can this get? And what if we made like a mechanical duck that was so good it was indistinguishable from a duck? Would it be a duck? Or what's the difference between this kind of mechanical duck and an actual duck? I do think it's kind of the top-down, bottom-up difference. So like if right now, like ChatGPT, these large language models they're training on massive amounts of data, and they are essentially really good at mimicking human speech, but they have no understanding or sentience or whatever about what they're saying, which is why, that's why there's the problem with hallucinations and with, like, sometimes when you ask them to make pictures, I think you get bizarre stuff back. This is like one of my benchmarks. So, and I just tried this yesterday with the latest ChatGPT, with the 4.0, is to make me a picture of a longbow. That's it, a longbow, which is not that complicated an item. I have yet to find any of the image making software that can do it. And I think the problem is they have no understanding of what the thing actually is and how it works. They're treating it like a work of art, and you get a result that it's like a bow, but it's not functional. It's bizarre. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
That's a perfect example of what. So they can go through a process which sort of simulates a bow-like, a longbow-like structure, but they have no understanding of what it actually is and how it functions and the laws of physics, and so you end up with a nonsensical thing.
So I just asked it to do it, and it did exactly what you said.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's actually better than most, but still, it's not an actual.
It's a bad way to do that. But basically, you see that there's two like bowstrings there. It kind of confuses the arrows with the bowstring.
Yeah, right. That's the other thing. It doesn't disambiguate things.
Yeah, and you would think that it would be able to handle that without a problem. But, it just shows you how difficult that is to make something like that. I think, look.
So the thing is, but the question is, when we get to the point, like we were talking about how the uncanny valley, let's say we get through the uncanny valley with the interface, and then the speech, like, it really is indistinguishable from talking with a person. All of the personality and the emotions and the nuance and everything. And yes, I have said a functional longbow. I've tried so many different permutations. Nothing works. Anyway, when you get to that point where it really is indistinguishable, but it's still not sentient. It's still not thinking. It just is a mechanical duck.
It's a very complicated piece of software that has an incredible amount of data, and it's very, very sophisticated software. And it can do incredible things, and it doesn't need intelligence to do this stuff, And again, the more I learn about artificial intelligence and more about these large language models, and the more that I understand, the potential of just these types of software, I don't know if we want general AI. General AI sounds very dangerous to me.
Well, it depends. I don't think we need general AI. The other thing I've come to believe in the last few years that we actually every time we think we need general AI to do something, it turns out you could do it with narrow AI, right?
Yeah.
And this goes all the way back to the beginning. This goes back to chess playing software, where initially they thought, well, in order for a computer to play chess, it has to be able to think. And we're never going to get it. I mean, not anytime soon. Like making like a real understanding, strategically thinking computer, like that's way in the future. And then someone did it. It's like, no, you don't need a thinking computer. You can just you can come up with an algorithm that that does it from that does it in a narrow way, and in fact, it could get really good at it. In fact, it can get better than any human chess, like way better than any human. Eventually, way better than any human chess player. And then the same was true for Go or for whatever, anything like that. It turns out you don't need to be able to think in order to do these complicated behaviors. You could model them, and whatever you could use the way that we do narrow AI. All right, here's a question. Hey, Steve. A while ago, you mentioned AGI might emerge from any narrow AIs. Still think so? I don't know. I mean, again, like Mike, this is a good question. I think it's always been a question, is that if you have 20 narrow AIs linked together, and they essentially did everything that the human brain does, right? So, but breaking it down to little pieces, and then they were not only were they just linked together. It's not just running alongside of each other. They're interacting with each other.
Parallel.
They're using the output of one is the input of another, and there's a continuous sort of conversation happening among these 20 narrow AIs. Would a general AI emerge out of that? I can't say no. I don't know. The thing is, it's possible that that's all our own brains are, right? That our own brains are just a bunch of narrow AIs just wired together and constantly talking to each other in real time. And as long as that internal conversational loop doesn't stop, you're conscious, right?
Who knows?
We don't.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
know
know
that we can really definitively answer the question right now, but that's a really interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
Send me that photo.
Which one?
Of the bow.
I made a bunch of them.
Oh, okay. Just
Did any of
whichever
them
one
come
is
out
the
good?
most.
I mean, I think at some point, there's no reason why they can't solve it just again by making an end run around the process by if you have basically having a database of stuff that it knows. Like sometimes, and I know that the more recent iterations do that, right? So there are sometimes give me a photorealistic whatever. You get an actual completely anatomically accurate picture of what it is you're asking for, not the pseudo image that was generated. You don't get a generative result, you get an actual result. So there's sometimes it can do that. Like not too long ago I asked it to make an image of a spider, and you got an actual spider, not a spider-like thing with too many legs and eyes.
Yeah,
or whatever.
it's getting more accurate now. Than it was
yeah,
a year
but
ago.
I'm not. Again, I don't know enough technically to know exactly how it's accomplishing that. Is that because it's using some other method where it's sort of constrained by a database, like it knows what a spider looks like, or is there some kind of error correction filter in place as well? It's got to be comparing it to like some kind of baseline. I'm using Longbow not for partly because it's probably wouldn't be on the short list of things that they would include in the database, and also just it's like an interestingly simple thing that it really can't make a good image of. Swords were the same way, but they've gotten a lot better. But the problem with the swords, like all the pieces were there, just the proportions are always off. I find but then sometimes like you get a perfect one. Like clearly it copied that. And it's more of a copy than a generation, I would say. It's not a pure copy, but it's like or maybe it's just chance. It got the proportions correct. But always too, you get like the kind of really weird.
And these are all
extra blades coming out of weird angles, stuff like that.
And Steve and I use these image generators quite a bit. We definitely have seen a dramatic improvement in a lot of things. Like it doesn't make people with multiple hands anymore or more fingers. Like they're fixing it as it goes. The thing the point that I find the most interesting is how fast this stuff is going to iterate, and have an impact on our lives. It's going to move very quickly. It's going to evolve very quickly. And again, we're going to have these companies around the world competing with each other, and trying to make the best, the fastest, the smartest, the most flexible. we have so much stuff, very much coming around the corner here, and there's no way to brace for it. There are people that are right now protesting against OpenAI. They're in front of the offices at OpenAI right now, saying that they want it to stop. They stop advancing the technology until we figure out how to handle this
That's
stuff.
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Nor should it. It's not the right approach.
I get what they're saying. Look, anybody who is spending any, bending any of their attention to this should rightfully be a little worried about it. It's going to be a disruptive technology. It will be. It's going to change things in ways that we can't predict. I mean, Steve and I and Bob wrote a book about how you cannot predict future technology. You can't do it. We can just speculate. And the one thing that we can do, though, is we can say it's very likely that it's going to be disruptive. It's very likely that this is going to move very fast, just because of how iterative it is, because they're using artificial intelligence to improve artificial intelligence. Just the fact that in the last month, they came out with AIs that can create songs. They came out with, AIs that, what was the other one? There was songwriting that came out, and there was something else that came out.
The video.
Oh, yeah, the video one.
Yeah.
Sora was the video.
Yeah.
Suno was the audio.
Yeah, and I
only
used
one of them,
Suno, and
but-
Ian helped me do some post-production on it.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, I asked it to write an 80s rap song, and it did it, and it's a good song. Hey, I'm very particular about my music. Like, I stopped listening to new music a long time ago because I just wasn't into the new stuff, because I'm old. Everybody's old. You know what I'm saying? You get to a certain point, you just kind of look back. You're not looking at the stuff that's happening today. But I mean, the song it wrote was very, very good.
For the people who like the Kendrick versus Drake thing, that BBL Drizzy
Yeah.
song is AI.
Yeah.
And then Metro sampled it. Whether or not he knew it was AI is
All right.
interesting.
Should we change
Let's get out of
topics a
here.
little
Change
bit?
Let's
topics.
get out of here. So we could go on to
Yo.
a little sentience one. We did have a video about sentience, if you want to
Sure,
go into
the-
that.
Well, before you do that, I had it write a joke about Steve.
Oh, Lord.
Why did Dr. Steven Novella bring a ladder to the podcast? Because he heard the topics were pretty high level. It's basically a dad joke generator.
Yeah. It's good at terrible jokes.
It's a dad joke.
Does
generator.
Evan work for?
I know. Evan is definitely
I
writing
just
jokes for
thinking.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, he's moonlighting. I'm currently recording an album, and the part of me is questioning what the point is. Well,
No, don't do
keep
that.
Recording. I have
Don't do that.
a family owns a studio, please.
No, but I mean, I have very strong opinions about that. We can't just let artificial intelligence become the creator of art. We can't. Humans need to do this.
Yeah.
And I think
So what was that video you were going to show, Ian?
Oh yes, this one, we're moving on. That's right.
it's a big topic.
I hear you.
We hear. Yeah,
We're just done. We need to go
What
to
is
something
wrong
else.
with her brain?
No, that's not her brain. That's not a spore.
It's not a hat.
Last of Us or whatever. The anyway.
It does look like it's emerging from her
It sure
head.
does.
though.
Yeah, it does. It's like, oops. So scientists may have proven sentience in brains grown in a jar.
Okay.
Steve, are you familiar?
Yes, we
Okay.
talked about this on the show
Oh.
when it happened.
Okay, well, let's see what they have to say.
Scientists may have proven sentience within the disembodied brains grown in a petri dish by making them play 1970s video games.
That's
Hi, welcome back to Man-Made Horrors Beyond Comprehension. The brain organoids, which are made from stem cells from human skin tissue and encouraged to become neural tissue, display complex interaction. The neurons
cat coming into
learn
frame is
and
so
grow
funny.
and actually form structures very similar to an early human brain, as well as having brain waves similar to a premature baby. However, in order to test whether or not these brain waves indicate thoughts, scientists decided to hook them up to a computer chip. By immersing the brain organoids in a virtual world, they're able to watch them grow and learn. They even learn to play Pong faster than our current AI models. Interestingly enough, without the feedback teaching them that they're winning the game, they were unable to learn, showing that the brains are actually processing feedback. This ability to learn has raised ethical questions about how aware the brains are of their own reality while growing in a petri dish. Interestingly enough, the capacity for the brains to communicate with us also gives us the opportunity to see if they are suffering or how they feel about this new world that they've been grown in. Come back next time where I tell you about how we popped one of these in a mouse skull and it took over the mouse.
Is
You know,
that
the
all
cat's
BS,
taking over
Steve?
her.
The cat is the highlight.
What's up with that, Steve?
So, no, these things are not sentient. And we talked about this on the SGU. So the organoids, like brain organoids, are useful for research because it's not just like here's a bunch of plated neurons, that we could then see how those individual cells work. They actually, we develop them, we let them develop to the point where it's not a brain, but the neurons start to go through some preliminary developmental process and develop some kind of early structure. Again, it's not headed towards being a brain. It's just that, they're kind of wiring up together, and then neurons that, wire together, fire together, as we like to say. So it does affect, how they conduct electricity. So what the experiment that she's talking about, the organoid wasn't thinking or doing any of its own processing. They were just using it with the computer chip, as essentially as a processor. You know what I mean? So there's no reason to think it's any more sentient than the computer chip itself, right? They basically were using it like a computer chip. That's it. No, it would not have feelings. It's not sentient. It's not aware. It's not a brain. It was just, a bunch of neurons with some very primitive incipient structure.
And then you get the TikTok effect, right? So now we have some person out there who read somebody's misinterpretation or disinformation, and now is presenting it like it's legit. And also, at some point, somebody came up with a bunch of BS that they attribute to this research. And we live in that world. We live in a world where people, the lines are blurred now significantly between.
Listen, Ian and I were just talking about this when we were going through all the different TikToks that we could potentially talk about today. Is a lot of these videos fall under the amateur science communication umbrella, right? Which is people who are not scientists, who don't really have a good background in the specific information that they're dealing with, talking about a science news item and just getting it basically wrong. So, in order to be a good science journalist, you need to at least be a scientist in the relevant area or be a good journalist, a good science journalist.
Yeah.
You could be a good science journalist without being a scientist, but then you really got to know the process that you need to go through in order to make sure that what you're saying isn't bullshit, right? That you are accurately reflecting the views of the experts in the field.
Look, it's hard to do this. It's very hard.
It's hard. It takes a lot of work. You have to go. You have to do a deep dive on every little thing that you talk about.
And we've said this before. We've been doing this for 25 years, right? We've been doing this a very long time, and we still get some things wrong. We're not experts in a lot of these, all of these topics. We're reporting on them, and we're trying to kind of figure out, are they accurate? Were the studies done well and all that? But there's still details that even people who are very well versed in science will not be able to comprehend or get right on the first go, just because you're not an expert.
Yeah. Well, so in terms of and we try to be very humble about our own abilities because again, this is really hard work, but we bring a few things to the table in that we have a pretty broad science background, right? A lifetime of studying and reading science from, again, a lay perspective, mostly. Kara and I actually have advanced degrees in science, but, again, that doesn't really help us outside of our area of expertise. But, it's good to know, how science functions, right? So we have a good baseline scientific literacy. We have a good baseline in critical thinking, and we have, spent a lot of time dealing with the media, how they present information, how they process information. And again, basically being science journalists, science communicators. It's a suite of skill sets that we've been developing over years. But I do appreciate the enthusiasm for the science and saying, hey, this is cool. That's a good use for TikTok. And I'm much more tolerant of the people on TikTok who are showcasing awesome science, but maybe they're making a lot of mistakes because they don't have that deep background, versus people who are spreading anti-science, and blatant pseudoscience or just conspiracy nonsense. That kind of nonsense I have no patience for. That just needs to be completely criticized. But for people like that, it's like, yeah, that's a cool study. And I could see where you might come to that false conclusion about it. What I would just recommend, take a more nurturing approach, like not really be critical of that person, just say, you're right, it's a cool study. It was amazing that they were able to, basically interface the organoid with a chip and get it to process information. But you need to read a little bit more deeply into these studies you have to read past the hype, right?
Yes.
You can't just read like a
Don't believe the hype.
You can't read a mainstream media article about it and think that you now understand the study, because you don't. You're getting a non-science journalist's butchering of whatever the science actually had to say, massively skewed towards sensationalism. That's the baseline. You have to understand that that's the media savvy part. You have to understand that that's the baseline. And if you want to get past that, you need to read the study if you can. You need to read scientists talking about the study directly, not just what some journalist quote mined from them, and try to get a better idea of what it's actually saying.
A lot of times when we're researching articles, this happens, more than not, is you'll go and you'll be like, wow, on these 5 different websites, they have the exact text.
Right.
It's the same article. Like they're just regurgitating like somebody else's work and seemingly not even like making editorial changes or anything.
So again, the baseline is this. A scientists come out with a study. They publish a study. The media outlet for that institution, right? Let's say they're Yale scientists. They publish a study. The Yale media place. They put out a press release of hyping the study. They ask the researchers to help them understand it. The researchers are too busy to ever get back to them, so they go with whatever it is that the
marketer decides.
I'm not telling you this is how it always happens, but this is how it frequently happens. And when you complain to the PR department about their press release, they say, well, we asked the researchers, but they didn't have time for us. And then that press release then gets printed with little or no change by everybody, right? Because you have like a Yale University press release. Why? It is what it is. Some websites, they're explicitly the press release. Like this, they're not pretending to be anything else. They're just curating press releases. Some will print it as a news article, but not make any changes at all. So they're sort of taking a press release and then pretending like they wrote an article. And others will essentially just restate the press release, right? But not make any changes to it. And that's like going to be 80-90% of the reporting that's out. So that's why it's the same thing over and over again. And even worse, some outlets will then take what the first outlet did. So like The Guardian prints their version of the press release, and then 100 other outlets just copy the Guardian article. So that's why you keep encountering the same thing over and over again. So anyway, you have to understand how this infrastructure works. And then you realize, okay, so what I need to do is track my way back to the original source of the information, at least get back to the press release and find out where that came from.
Yeah.
And then you need to go back to the study.
If you can access it.
And then you need to if you can get access to it. And then you need to do background research, like who are these researchers? What else have they published? What else is going on in this space?
And that is
what do these topics mean? Is this really new? Is this really the first time that people have done this? Because oftentimes the answer is no.
And how many people are doing it? Let's cut through the bullshit here. Like how many of us are actually doing it? It sucks. It's not fun work. It's not fun to do that.
Fun.
Well, you can move a lot faster than most of us, but if I'm reading a,
I mean, it's work.
work.
I do happen to enjoy it, but I do think
it's
that,
work.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying and it can be tedious. But oftentimes like this is we get to the limits of our time, manpower, and background understanding. We do the best job we can, and then somebody who's actually involved in the research will email us and go, "There's some nuance here that you didn't get."
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, well, we did kind of get that nuance, but we had to decide where the cutoff is. Like we can't. There's a limit to how deep we could go in the time we have to then summarize the study. But sometimes it's like, well, what you don't know is this researcher's an asshole and whatever. Like there's some like interpersonal stuff that you would never know unless you're in the community, and like they're giving us like extra details. Or like what you don't know is like this is the only guy pushing this theory, and that everyone else thinks he's an idiot or whatever. Like you get that kind of an insight. So, which is why we often then will come back and give a follow-up to this study. So this sometimes you don't learn the information you need. Christopher Hitchens told us that. We interviewed Christopher Hitchens once, and he said, once you publish an article, all the people that you needed to talk to first then come out of the woodwork to talk to you.
Right. They become accessible to you afterwards, not beforehand.
So so like all the people you were trying to talk to, but the thing is you didn't necessarily know that they existed, right? But like people with information that you need then come forward once you come out with your first go, which is why I often try to cross-fertilize. Like I'll write an article on my blog and then days later talk about it on the show after I've had all that feedback. It's actually a useful process to go through. Anyway, these are all the complexities of good science journalism. And again, do I expect some 18-year-old on TikTok to be doing this? No.
As an example too, Steve, excuse me, Steve functioning as the editor of...
editors are also important.
Like when I told Steve I want to talk about the updated version of ChatGPT, as the editor, Steve goes, don't forget, don't make it too hypey. Make sure but this is what newspapers have lost.
Yeah.
They don't have someone who does understand overseeing other people and
and specifically, most papers got rid of their science journalism editors. Right, so they don't have a science department anymore. They just have general reporters doing the articles. And again, the worst part about that is they don't have a science editor looking over their shoulder.
So you have people who don't really understand the science that they're reading,
which is why they just regurgitate the press release.
Yeah, or they sensationalize it.
Right.
Or
and sometimes sensationalizing it means that they talk about all of the theoretical applications rather than, okay, but what did they actually study? Like, what did they actually find?
Like,
what is this actually doing?
I'm in an online debate with people who believe that there is weather control out there, right? They
HAARP,
showed
right?
they showed a picture of a HAARP facility, and they're like, they have weather control, and they're changing the weather deliberately, blah, but I don't believe in global warming. It's like, well, all right, well, what are they doing with the weather then, But anyway, so I say...
weather control or climate control?
Weather control. So then
how does that address...
They conflate it, I think.
They conflate it with...
So I said to them, it's multiple people, that they're all wrong, and they're all arguing against me. They're making a ton of claims. I can't keep up with all their claims. And then, so I just start laying down some basic science knowledge, like general science understanding. The amount of energy that we would need to control the weather is enormous. We can't create enough energy to even do it. We can't, if we had that technology, why would we be using it secretively? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they have a very dark version of reality.
Right.
So then the woman goes, here's my proof, and she drops a link of Michio Kaku being interviewed on ABC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I watch it. And even Michio Kaku, who is a pseudoscientist, right, because he pushes a lot of pseudoscience, and he's a sensationalist. He sensationalizes.
He's more of a sensationalizer than a pseudoscientist.
But
he's a legitimate physicist, but he in trying to make things interesting, he skirts the line of like it's almost become pseudoscience the way he presents.
Yeah, he's look, he's not, as far as I'm concerned, he's on my blacklist because he's not he's not doing a good job. He's like, so in the interview, there's two newscasters that are interviewing him, and then Michio Kaku starts to talk about how, well, the government's were said to be controlling the weather during the Vietnam War and blah, blah, blah. And then the newscaster was like, allegedly. They had to correct him, right?
Yeah.
And they had to editorialize him during the interview. And they're talking to a person that has a degree, a master's.
Again, he doesn't know. He was just reporting something he heard. That was all hearsay.
But he portrayed it as
he had to be corrected.
Yeah, it had to be corrected. So
Yeah.
so it's a sloppy mess out there. It's
Yeah.
just super messy, and TikTok is an accelerant. TikTok is giving more people ease of spreading misinformation and disinformation. And that's why we're on here. Not like we're
Yeah.
making this big change or anything, but hopefully some people will stumble upon us and hear, hear that hey, there is a pathway to finding out what the truth is. It's not fun. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of work.
Twitter has a lot of the same issues too. Maybe
Yeah.
a little more.
All of them.
They're just different flavors.
Different flavors of
Yeah.
shit.
I think Twitter is more like propaganda ideology
Yeah,
driven.
it's pretty.
Yeah.
I think TikTok is
far
more
right,
like
I think.
click driven. It's just the click.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
The engagement culture, like there's truth doesn't matter. It's whatever maximizes engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So I recently reset my TikTok account. I don't know how I did it, but I just wanted to clear everything.
yeah. You can get rid of the suggested or whatever.
So I find this fascinating. So I didn't tell them anything that I liked. I didn't search for anything. And guess what it showed me?
What?
100% political commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there going, why did it do that? Why am I getting information about Joe Biden and Donald Trump in my TikTok feed when I blanked it out?
Yeah.
I can't help but think that it didn't blank it out. Like it still is drawing from somewhere because I do look at that stuff. I am digesting political information quite a bit. So, it's bullshit. There isn't, we are being funneled and corralled and on social media. Like, I'm sure that 90% of what they're doing is directed on making the most money. Because that's why they exist. It's not, this isn't like for the benefit of mankind, it's for the benefit of the people who own the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to be really careful because, it's social media, man. It's not a force of good in the world. And we got to be careful. I know I kind of veered off from what you were
Yeah.
saying, but,
Yeah.
but there
Well,
we go.
in line with the humility and other things of like scientists or not being experts, have you ever heard of the Nobel Prize syndrome
Yep.
Yeah.
or Nobelitis? I think.
Yeah,
it
we
is?
talked about that a lot,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
on science-based medicine. There's, there's a few cases of people who, like, once they win the Nobel Prize, they become, that makes them an automatic authority on everything, right? And then that doesn't, however, prevent them from going on to have a post-Nobel pseudoscientific career. And but that pseudoscience has way more cachet in the media because it's from a Nobel laureate,
Right.
Because that person is now forever a Nobel laureate,
All it means is that they did something very good in their particular field.
right?
Yeah.
A standout in their particular field. And you got to watch out, man. You will find that people who identify with being intelligent tend to have this horizontal thinking that they're intelligent with everything that passes their desk,
Yeah.
And it can't be farther from the truth. I mean,
Well, it definitely increases their confidence.
look, I have what
We
we
get
all
9
have
bucks.
on
Pretty
at the Skeptics Guide. We all have good science literacy, right? I had a friend recently ask me, like, what would happen if an astronaut? Let me ask you the question. You answer, then we'll compare
Yeah.
our answers. Okay, an astronaut is connected to the space station. So here's the Earth. Can you see me, Ian?
Oh yeah, I'll go first.
Here's
Oh,
the
sorry.
space station.
There you go.
And the astronaut is standing here, so gravity is down, right? I know there's no gravity, but it's like just to show you. And then the astronaut throws a baseball, right? What's your answer? What happens to the baseball and everything else? Tell me the big picture of what just took place in the world of physics.
It depends on what direction they threw the baseball.
They threw the baseball up a little bit, like to see if you could deorbit it.
deorbit, so they're throwing it against the direction of the orbit.
No. Like the point is to try to get the baseball to go into outer space away from the Earth.
To leave Earth orbit.
But not throwing it straight up, throwing it basically.
So you'd have to throw it in the direction of the orbit, and you want to get it to go faster. You want to get into a higher orbit.
higher orbit. Yeah.
Yeah. the amount that you could throw the baseball is so insignificant compared to the escape velocity that it wouldn't make any difference. You would slightly change the orbit of that baseball.
Right. So this is what I told him. I said the baseball will therefore be going a tiny bit faster than the space shuttle,
Yeah.
than the space station. So it would go up tiny bit. It would go up to a higher orbit a little bit, and you would decrease the space station a little bit. But I made sure to understand the energy that you would be transferring to that ball is nothing.
It's negligible.
It's negligible. But so he's like, so he wouldn't go into outer space. I'm like, no, not even close, because the amount of gravity, the amount of force that's on that ball to hold it where it is so powerful.
So it also gets to what we call orbital dynamics, and people don't intuitively think about orbital dynamics. So if you think about, like, for example, the movie Gravity, which is a wonderful movie, by the way,
Yeah, very good.
but completely butchered orbital dynamics. It's like, if I'm over here and I want to go to the station, which is over there, I have to just fly sort of towards the station. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You have to match the direction and speed of the object to get into its same orbit, and that could take a tremendous amount of energy, depending on what the velocity differential is between those two orbits. Getting something to completely leave the orbit of the Earth, go to Mars, for example, requires a lot of energy. Although, having said that, about half of that energy is expended just getting into low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
But leaving Earth entirely is still a significant additional amount of energy. You're not going to do it by you physically throwing a baseball. You're just going to slightly change its orbit by doing that.
The idea, though, is that, like, I find this really fascinating because, I remember when I didn't really understand this stuff. So, like, if something is, is in orbit around the Earth, and something is farther away from the Earth than the space station, say, doesn't it have to move faster to be up there?
Slower.
Or slower, I meant. It has to be moving slower. So you have to be going faster the closer you are to the Earth.
Yeah,
Okay.
in order to maintain the orbit.
So if he threw the baseball and it was going faster than the space station...
I know, it gets weird. It changes orbit. And it actually might go into a lower orbit if you do that. But if you threw it up, I don't know, that
skews it.
That might skew it a little bit. But it would eventually settle into an orbit based upon
On
that.
its speed.
Yeah,
Based upon its speed. Okay.
So that it's going at the correct speed.
Okay.
Right. Right, because you think about, like, Pluto is moving much more slowly than the Earth is, because it's a lot farther. If the Pluto were moving as fast as the Earth would, it would sort of escape.
Yeah.
You know?
It'd be like the outside of a record player is moving faster than the inside of a record player.
But that's not the way it happens.
Right.
Think about it this way: if that baseball were 100 feet above the ground, you could theoretically be in orbit around the Earth. But imagine how fast you'd have to be going to keep from
falling down.
From falling at that height. Yeah.
Plus, you have the wind resistance, which you can't.
Well, if we ignore wind resistance, if once you with orbital dynamics around the Earth, because there's an atmosphere, you also have to consider drag from the atmosphere. So this is all assuming you're high enough to be above any significant drag.
So what's the benefit of being in low Earth orbit versus just being 20 miles higher? You know what I mean? Like, why do we pick the spaces in orbit that we do, I wonder?
So partly it's energy. Like, how much energy does it take to put something in that orbit? It takes more energy to put it into a higher orbit. And so there's limitations on the size of the rocket, the amount of fuel, the weight of the satellite, whatever it is that we're putting up there. That's why we talked last week about the electric ion drive. Part of the primary purpose of those kind of propulsion is you put a satellite into low Earth orbit with a big giant rocket, and then if you want to push it into a higher orbit, now you have a way of doing that.
Yeah.
You could use a solar sail, you could use an ion drive, you could use something else. But if you want to get to a higher orbit, you need a bigger rocket, and with the fuel equation, with a lot more fuel, right? If you want to get all the way to the moon, which is still in orbit around the Earth, even if all the way to the moon, that takes a Saturn V sized rocket,
It's counterintuitive. It's really an odd...
It is counterintuitive, right?
Because let's face it, like, we have evolved, mentally to understand physics on planet Earth.
Yeah, our brain is literally wired for 1G.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, our brains can subconsciously, we can tell the difference between something moving in what we call an inertial frame, right? If something's moving in an inertial frame, that means there's The only external force acting upon it is gravity. So it's basically just doing whatever gravity would have it do, as opposed to something which is not acting in inertial frame, meaning that it's like moving under its own power, for example.
And we can notice that.
And our brains will know the difference intuitively. Like it just knows that's like just gravity, and no, that's actually controlling its own movement. That's alive. That's a sentient thing.
Like, you know, watching people like make stupid videos on TikTok, and you see someone like jumping for a basketball and they jump too high because like somebody
Yes.
altered it, and you notice it right away.
You notice it right away.
It didn't work. Nope, doesn't work that way. That's not happening.
It does. And this is like even with physics engines, where they mimic gravity, they mimic movement in 1G. When they were slightly off, again, you get to that uncanny valley of movement. Like our brains are very good at picking up that what is normal 1G movement.
Yep. I watched this simulator. It pops up on my TikTok feed where they show like a car, like let's say there's a highway, and then there's like a 2-foot gap in the highway.
Yeah.
Right. Where like there's like a trench.
Yeah.
And then they go, how fast would this car have to drive over that trench to not be affected by the trench? And they show it. So here's 30 miles an hour, and it goes in, and here's 50, and then and it gets a little bit. Terrible things happen to these cars, and eventually like they'll show it like make the jump without affecting the car. But I noticed these tiny little oddities about the physics engine that always I'm like, oh, that seems a little weird to me.
It's a little weird.
Your brain tells you like something didn't seem right.
It's another form of the uncanny
Yeah,
valley.
for sure.
But anyway, but all of our intuitions are built around that, and we don't have any intuition for how things work in the microgravity of free fall, right? Where, essentially there's no you're not under the influence of the 1G. You're still in the Earth's gravitational field. It's just that because you're constantly falling, you don't feel the gravity.
Yeah. So this guy in the chat, volunteer for awesome, says, anyone want to interact with a ChatGPT-driven general AI simulation? Ian, why don't you find out, like, what would we have to do that? Is it in the chat that they would be interacting?
Yeah, what does that mean, volunteer? And if there's a link, you can email it to us, and maybe I'll check the email.
Sounds pretty cool.
Keep an eye on the email.
What does that mean in general AI?
I think he's using ChatGPT to simulate, like, that you're talking to a general
But isn't
AI.
that what it does? Isn't that what it is
Oh,
already?
Let's see what he's got here, man.
How is it different than? I don't understand how that's different than ChatGPT.
Yeah, send it to us. We'll take a look. Or with maybe a little explainer. That would be cool.
Yeah.
You could write it in the chat, too. Speaking of simulation, did you guys know that purple doesn't exist?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a brain manifestation, not a color manifestation.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's listen to this.
Is this true?
Weirder still, by the way, purple doesn't exist. Do you know that? There are no purple photons. Doesn't exist on the light spectrum. It's entirely a psychological creation. So what happens is that if you get red and blue, now normally what the brain should do is say, well, it's halfway between red and blue, so it must be green. I'm getting a lot of stimulus in the red, I'm getting quite a bit in the blue. Halfway between red and blue is green. Okay? But you've also got a green sensor in the middle, and the green sensor, because it's picking up red and blue, isn't picking up anything at all. So the brain, I mean, your brain could go fuzzy and say system error. Because in one sense, in a physical sense, there are no purple photons. Purple doesn't exist, okay? It's entirely created in your head. What the brain does is it essentially has invented a color purple, which essentially represents not green, okay? It's a color to represent the weird, unexplained absence of green. But in physics, it doesn't exist. So this is my point here, which is that...
That's
So.
Yeah, I mean, color, our subjective perception of color is a brain phenomenon. Just like our subjective perception of sound, right, is a brain phenomenon. Yes, it is responding to air vibrating, right? It's vibrating our eardrum. But what we experience is constructed inside our brain. Color is constructed inside our brains, right? Red doesn't have to look red; it just does. It does because that's the way our brains interpret it. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's why there's like no purple on the spectrum, right? On the rainbow.
I will not tell my 8-year-old daughter that. I will leave
So-
that.
So it exists in terms of our perception. It doesn't,
Right.
but there are no purple photons, which is interesting.
So if we didn't have a green receptor or something, like, would it be green? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
In other
not-
words, if we had only two,
Yeah,
like
the red and
dichromatic vision, that's
right.
interesting. Like what do dichromats see? What do tetrachromats see? We have four.
Yeah.
Do they also see colors that are purely constructed that don't exist on the physical spectrum?
Don't be sad about this because we perceive purple. It's a thing.
Yeah, there are purple things.
I'm seeing
so it
purple right
exists.
now, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But does it? Just not
I
physically.
my whole life I haven't really liked the color purple, and I figured out I can trace it back to
Why?
jelly beans. I never liked the purple jelly beans.
Why not? I like the purple.
They always
jelly beans.
tasted weird to me.
Grape, isn't it grape?
It's kind of a fake grape.
yeah, fake
Yeah,
grape.
terrible.
Concord,
grape.
like on crack.
Terrible.
Extra Concord.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Keith Davies, man, you said it right. It doesn't taste like grape because they
Nothing tastes like it's supposed to taste like.
even that weird banana
Oh,
flavor.
The
banana.
banana doesn't taste like banana. Watermelon does not taste like watermelon.
True.
Cherry does not taste like cherry. The
tricked us.
citrus ones are the best. Orange
lime?
and lime and lemon
Yeah, they hit it.
are the closest.
Yeah.
And it's all because chemists are isolating the chemicals in those flavors, and they say we've isolated the banana flavor, and here it is, and now you could have it in a peanut form,
Nope,
whatever.
It doesn't taste.
But the thing is, the real flavor, the real fruits are hundreds of chemicals. There's all kinds of chemicals in there
that make that
make that combination that gives you the experience of banana, and so you're not getting that, right? You're getting just like chemical grape or whatever.
Overt.
Ian, do you like watermelon Jolly Ranchers?
I don't know if I do anymore, but
Watermelon
yeah, I
is
do
one
like
of the better
watermelon.
fake fruit flavors.
Yeah,
Some are better than others. I actually like the citrus ones better. Like the
Of course.
orange jelly beans have always
Probably
been my
'cause
Yeah,
favorite.
there's
but I
simplicity to it,
like
but-
orange and lemon starbursts are great.
Yeah, they're great.
They're freaking great, man.
Yeah, great. I've never been a fan of fake grape.
No,
I agree with that.
never.
Or fake cherry too. Is a little bit too intense.
Oh,
Cherry- yeah.
medicinal
Cherry
too.
is a
kinda
puke,
little bit
thing.
medicinal,
It's
yeah.
pukey.
Fake banana is like it's an okay flavor. It's just not banana. It just
No.
doesn't taste like really banana.
Isn't the claim that that's what Gros Michel tastes like?
That's what
But
they say. I don't
know
believe
if
any
that's
of that
true.
shit. It's in today's day and age, Ian, you're better off just saying I don't believe anything. You know what I mean? I don't believe that. You know?
Nothing.
It's
The
a
hell?
good first approximation,
Yeah.
and then go from there.
So somebody tagged us in this video. Is this a neurological something or other happening, or is something else happening in this?
Okay,
wait, now
let's see it.
Of course, I clicked on the wrong one and I dragged it to the wrong frame. There it is. Boom. Here we go. Boom.
Okay.
Amy Lee Zubeth Brataski. Sayer Uvun Jinju Brinan.
What?
So what's the thing that? we're supposed to be
Marcelin
This person is
Babazan Carr.
saying their names,
And they're completely wrong.
and they're
Victoria
Yeah.
Lee Zubeth Ross.
Didn't quite get that one.
I mean, she's having a stroke live on.
Elizabeth.
So I'll give you another option to guess. So we have stroke as option 1. Chat, what do you think? What do you think option 2 would be?
Are they
Is it
not a native English speaker?
not a native English speaker? That
Sounds
could be
like-
potential.
But she does sound like she is a native English speaker.
Now think, yes, yeah.
Is it an AI?
No, it's not an AI. So that's a third. Now a fourth option. Oh, somebody in the chat, Olivia, might have said something. If you can see what Olivia
Oh, she got the
said.
phonetic
She got the
names.
phonetic spelling
Smart.
of everyone's
Olivia,
name.
Olivia, you're smart.
And she doesn't know how to read the phonetic spelling.
But they're supposed to be easier.
That's the
Right.
that
Okay, that makes
maybe.
sense.
I mean, yeah, or dyslexia. So somebody tagged us and was like, "Wait, is this a neurological thing, or did they just not know how to spell or pronounce the phonetic?"
That's interesting, though. Yeah, okay, I get that.
But I don't understand how the phonetic spelling would lead to what this person is saying. though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You'd have to see what.
Yeah.
I mean, some phonetic organization of words, like, aren't they like pretty complex? Like, like the most obvious one would be like to write it simply.
If you
but-
didn't grow up like learning how to read phonetically, then yes, I could see how it would throw you for a loop without a
Yeah.
doubt. Hey, now listen, very important in the chat. Kenny
Gummy
Kenny
later.
Haberman said I've had Gros Michel bananas.
Uh-huh.
Kenny, what do they taste like? Are they better than the Cavendish?
banana.
Are they super creamy? Do they?
Aaron.
You got to give us more than
then you've had
they
it.
don't
tease
taste like
us.
fake bananas. Come on. And where did you have them and why didn't you contact us?
Aren't they somewhat available in Hawaii?
Yeah,
I've been to
they
Hawaii.
exist. They're not extinct.
I
they
went.
Exist, but
I
they-
went. I went everywhere. I
mad.
dragged friends and family to freaking fruit markets and shit, and we never found one.
Because you can't grow them commercially.
Yeah.
Because they get the fungus. So you got to keep them in like secluded.
I don't believe it.
I know, greenhouses and stuff.
What I had was the apple bananas.
Apple bananas are
and the ice
are
cream
fun.
bananas.
Yep, I've had those.
Yeah, like I couldn't pronounce Olivia's name until
The
she
red
told me it's
banana.
Olivia.
Olivia. Yeah, that's our.
Yeah, that's my problem.
The way we pronounce certain letters.
And the best thing that I had though was the was it the sugar? I'm trying to
The
remember.
sugar pineapple.
The sugar, the honey pineapple. I think it was. No.
Sugar loaf.
Sugar loaf. It was the sugar loaf.
Pineapple.
I still sweat it, guys. Freaking amazing! If you ever have the chance to have a sugar loaf.
I tried to order one online. It was like $80. I'm like, nah.
Yeah, no, but when you-
I can imagine what it was like.
That's a lot.
All right, the guy says it's been a while, but they tasted similar
Been a
to the
while.
Cavendish, a little more berry note, maybe a bit firmer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well that's not that's not
Yeah.
as exciting as I thought.
I think we've hyped it up too much in our head.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just tastes like a banana. It's
It tastes like a banana.
okay.
yeah. The Miami fruit, yeah, we tried that. They fail for
Some of the
us.
stuff they've done that.
I got some good stuff from them, but their Gros Michels were not good. They
Nope.
didn't.
Yeah.
I only
They
would.
failed.
I want to have like someone certify like this is a Gros Michel. It's a good one. Because I'm like going to fruit
It's got
vendors.
to be when it just gets the first spots.
Okay.
You know what I mean? When do you eat your bananas? Like, what's the optimal banana eating time for you?
Oddly, I like them a little when the stem is just a tiny bit green.
So does my wife. Yes, she likes it a little green. To me, that's like what it's too. It doesn't taste ripe.
Yeah.
But I don't, but there
It's
is
almost vegetal.
there is like a very quick rush
There's
to
a
like
very
ugh,
quick. I know that's a problem. Like there's like you get a bunch of bananas. There's really one day where
you
it's
get- yeah,
optimal,
where they hit.
and maybe you could do a day on either side. So I could maybe extend that to like 3
But
banana
people
eating
have
days.
claimed that you could put them in the refrigerator, and even though they turn weirdly brown, it does slow down
Yeah.
the ripening.
Yeah.
But also use it in banana bread, and it's
Yeah.
great. You know what I mean? Like
But I do
as
love it,
part of something.
like when they just get those first couple of spots.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's perfect. You get that full banana
Yeah.
flavor, but they're not mushy or mealy.
I used to eat Rice Krispies as a kid, and my mom would cut up little
I love
banana
bananas.
slices
Love
in the
bananas
Rice
cut up in the
Krispies.
cereal.
Oh man,
That's classic.
good stuff.
Have you guys ever heard of Monstera Deliciosa?
No, what is that?
So this is this I think I've seen
What
that,
is that?
Miami Fruit has sold this before, but it's like kind of like a corn on the cob. You have to wait for these to fall off,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But if you eat anything below that's not falling off, it'll like give you itchy throat or something.
Oh,
like
great!
that.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
So-
about that.
But apparently it tastes like kind of pina colada-y, like all the kind of exotic fruits, if you will, mushed together in a weird way.
I have seen these videos of like these Asian fruit growers with the craziest stuff, and some of it just
Yeah.
looks over the top amazing. And I'm like, is this even real?
It's AI.
Yeah, like I emailed Kevin.
Like what,
Polt-
durian
Kevin
fruit?
Polta about it. Like, is this real? And he's like, I'm not sure. Like, there's even like a freaking.
What was it? an exotic
the
fruit, you
specific video that I sent him, I really needed to know.
It's not durian.
They
like
look
those
like
big ones?
these. They look like these bigger, smoother oranges.
Uh-huh.
And then like the guy goes up, cuts it, and squeezes it, and like juice was blowing out of this thing, And it is so like I gotta have that, Like you just fall into the screen. I have to taste that,
What was it called?
Let me look it up. I mean, come
All
on,
right.
just relax.
Yeah, there are some great exotic tropical fruits out there that just are not commercializable.
Is
for
it a
one reason or
pomelo?
another.
Like I was thinking it
You
was
got
a
to get it
pomelo.
locally.
Let me
Like
look.
this.
Whenever
kinda?
I go to any kind of place like that, I always try to sample the local fruit.
Jay, like this
Let me see.
or no? Is that
No,
not
no,
so
no,
That
no,
looks like a
no.
big grapefruit.
Yeah, pomelo is.
That's
like,
what an orange was made from. They crossbred that with something else.
Do you know what the
lemon.
what's it called?
This I found it.
Durian.
What?
It's
all I
this
can
fruit
think.
right here.
What is it called?
All right, so Ian, I will send this to you.
You tell me what it is. Does it have a name on it? It doesn't have a name.
I'm going to send it to you. It
All
looks like
right,
an
all right,
orange.
We'll keep it.
But it's
secret.
all flesh, no rind.
There's no rind.
Or
Wait.
is that already peeled?
I don't understand why they have this
crazy.
white stuff on the outside of them.
That's pith, isn't it?
Maybe somebody
Tobacco. That's real now. isn't it?
juicy Chinese oranges. That's all this says here.
Okay.
But this isn't like. Let me put in Chinese oranges into here now.
Juicy Chinese oranges.
Oh, I think I've seen this video. White powdered oranges, right? Is that what they do?
Yeah. What is the white powder?
So is taste a subjective constructed experience? Yes, 100%. And there's multiple layers there. And
Oh, I found the video. The video. Yeah.
One is that not everyone tastes every chemical.
I
You know
think
what
I
I
have
mean?
it too, Jay. Let me put it on screen. Is it this one? Is it this video?
Yeah.
Or it's just like pouring
Very much.
out?
Yeah. Like look at the one on the right.
Yeah.
That's the one where you're just like, damn, what is happening? I need my mouth below that.
So
you
it
know?
does come off the tree, that white
All right,
powder.
Multiple questions. What's the white powder?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this so juicy? And how come I can't buy them right now?
White powdered oranges refers to multiple food porn videos of extraordinarily juicy oranges that are covered in white powder being cut in half, squeezed by Chinese farmers on TikTok. In mid-2022,
Is it real?
the videos frequently appeared on For You pages. The video originally came from China's Douyin app, and the oranges are actually called Hime jelly oranges.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can just search that real quick.
Okay.
Japanese oranges. Let me introduce you to my
Are
beautiful.
they Japanese or Chinese?
I guess they're Japanese, but maybe they are also grown in China. This is a company, so I don't know if
That
that's
looks
like,
different though. That's
yeah,
an
it does
orange
kind of
orange.
look a
They're
little.
big too. I want it.
The Japanese oranges you have to cut with a samurai sword.
That's true.
What's the white powder, Ian?
More textiles were exposed. It might be like a
The bug resistant thing?
Yeah,
or-
like
I thought they were like freezing
something.
them on the tree for some
Insecticide.
reason.
So I don't see.
Wait, is that powder part of the fruit or
saying.
the people putting the powder on them?
Almost certainly the people are putting the powder on it. Look at that, like the
So that's the one without the powder.
irregularity of the powder on this one.
Did you show everyone the juice coming out?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
They saw it. Didn't you see the juice?
I was looking at
They
my
got
phone.
the juice.
Let me see if this one's any juicier. Yeah, I mean it's like a glass of orange juice. Like this one might not be very juicy, but
Yeah, it doesn't look as nice as the other one. I'd eat it though.
yeah, sure. This one is particularly.
But it's basically an orange.
Here it is. This is the one that just blew my mind. Like, come on, I got to be a part of this. Look at that. Look, I could take a shower with that.
I don't know. Are they pouring orange juice above and we off camera and you can't see it?
I am literally like they're orange flavor oranges, like good like navel oranges to me. Like that is the ultimate piece of fruit.
Yeah, oranges are great.
They're freaking awesome.
Okay, so it's a clay powder.
Okay,
It's a clay powder. Now, why they do
I
that?
could protect it from the sun, bugs.
Perhaps, yeah, they might be very like
But-
particular.
So you got to wash them.
Yeah, well, certainly, I would imagine that.
Oh my god, that's like that. That is like a fake. It looks so fake. To
Yeah,
me.
the thing is, it could be the flavor sucks and it's just very juicy. You know what I mean?
I tried.
Like,
But he is squeezing both halves
Yeah.
into one stream, so it's
Still, like
So it
I
does
mean, I've
give
never
you a
had an
fake-
orange perform that much. Anybody that knows any way, anybody get me one of these or tell me where to get one of
Caracaras are
these?
good oranges.
I bet you that Miami Fruit, they probably could. figure
Ian, make
that
it
out.
happen.
Pre-order.
Make it
Japan
happen.
Premium Eheim. Eheim, maybe Eheim, maybe
Hi,
Mandarin.
Hyman.
They're Mandarin. It seems like they're also part of
Okay.
the Mandarin family. Jelly, Benny Madonna oranges.
That's what they are. Email that to me,
Okay,
please.
I will.
Thank you, Ian.
send it. Approximately 3 kilograms per premium gift box. Much of Japan is also well known for like their high
Melons.
quality, easy fruit. And
Oh
like,
yeah, they have a $30,000 melon.
yeah, to a point where it's like you can't eat it regularly. I guess it's like
Well,
it's like
no.
super special.
Yeah, don't develop a taste for that stuff. You're be done.
Right.
All right, it is
Right.
Steve. It is 2:30.
Yeah, so
we
we're gonna
have
do
a show
some
tonight.
TikToks.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're gonna do some quick tick.
Quick
talks.
dick.
Gonna
Quick-
correct TikTok.
Yeah, we got to correct these people on the tickety.
All right, I'm going to go home and prepare for the show tonight.
Very good.
I'm going to warn you right now. I have a really bad computer problem.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it started with a browser hijacking.
Yeah. How'd that happen?
I don't know. I mean, I'm very careful. I mean, even me, like I'm super careful. I don't know. I looked it up and they said it could have come from like a legitimate piece of software that works. Like I have
Yeah.
like this 4K video downloader that I use for SGU all the time to grab audio off the internet. And sometimes they bundle them with some mischievous stuff.
Yeah.
So I deleted everything. It didn't fix the problem. And then when I rebooted my computer, it did lots of things that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
And it took a very long time. And then I finally got it back, and everything is moving glacially slow on it. So I have my laptop as a backup, but I got to go home and troubleshoot
You
that
have to
crap.
reinstall your operating
Probably,
system.
which sucks. But I will bid you to adieu.
Okay, adieu, adieu.
Good
I
day,
hacked
everybody.
I did hack Jay's computer, technically.
Yeah, you did. Well, coincidence, Ian? You had to jump on my computer to grab a file for
I was already
Steve?
in there installing
I mean, come on.
porn box.
Porn bond. All right. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you all at the live stream on Friday. Ian, tell them how to find their way there.
Friday's stream, I gotta talk to you about. I might not be able
Oh, okay. We might not do
we
it
might
this
not
Friday.
have a stream on Friday. Next Friday.
yeah.
To those of you in the chat that I know, goodbye, Olivia. Goodbye, Keith. My friends. Keith, you should come to the Chicago show. I'm just going to put that out there.
That's right.
Wasn't he live in Australia or something?
No, he lives in Denver or outside of Denver.
I zoom in. That zoom in.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Okay, let's go to the TikTok setup. Got a little bit of TikTok.
sent you. I need all those answers.
Yes.
Boop. Boop, boop, boop. All right, see you later. Bye bye. I don't love you. Why? Yeah,
I'm
just
here.
center that. Very good. Very good. So with this one, it's just a still image, but I guess we could just post it up.
Just long
behind
enough
you.
for people to read it.
Yeah. Just for the first part at least. Let me get this.
I need to make sure I got the guy's name correct in my head.
Yeah, it's Dr. Asim Malhotra. Malhotra?
Is it Asim or Assam?
Well, it's spelled Aseem, so I don't know if he
Oh, yeah,
pronounced it
Asim.
Assam, but it seems like Asim.
Yeah, Asim.
It's usually phonetic. Malhotra. Yeah, Malhotra.
Malhotra.
Malhotra. I could look it up real quick how to pronounce.
Yeah. give me a second.
Asim Malhotra. Let's see if we can get his situation.
Well, welcome to this video. It's currently Tuesday,
Okay.
the 25th of October.
Let's see. I'm listening to some.
Physician, consultant, delighted to have Dr. Asim Malhotra with us.
Malhotra. He said.
Malhotra? Asim
Yeah.
Malhotra.
Yeah,
okay.
but then again, he's British, this guy, so who knows?
whatever.
Yeah,
Close enough.
Close enough. All right, let's do a little picture-in-picture situation. Let me just full screen this because it's no, that wasn't as full screen as I was hoping it would go. Stand by, everyone. We're gonna get into the TikTok time right now. I'll just do like this. Wah, wah. There we go. All right, so I'll start recording that. Okay. I mean, I could play it, I guess, with the music. I probably shouldn't play the music because we might get flagged for it.
Yeah. It doesn't need the music.
We could just like do a react if you wanted to point at it. I don't know, or just look at the camera.
I'll just look at the camera.
Yeah,
Let's
and we'll
deadpan it.
Okay. All right, we're still
All right.
rolling. We can,
Yeah, we can go.
go forward then.
Well, I have to say it's my duty as a neurologist, a skeptic, and the editor of Science-Based Medicine that guy is completely full of it. Dr. Asim Malhotra is a cardiologist from the UK who has decided that the mRNA vaccines cause heart disease. This is not based upon any peer-reviewed research. It is not based upon any accepted analysis of epidemiological data or any other data. His father died of a heart attack at 72. He thought he was otherwise healthy, and he decided something must have caused that. And 6 months earlier, he had an mRNA vaccine, so that must be it. And now he's on a crusade to tell the world that he thinks that the mRNA vaccines cause heart disease. So I have to say that, yes, it is true that there is a very rare side effect of the mRNA vaccines where they can cause myositis, inflammation of the heart. This is known. It's published data. We know what the frequency is. It's extremely low. The vaccines still have a massive benefit in excess to this tiny risk, but that's not really what he's talking about. He thinks that it causes accelerated atherosclerosis, without really a plausible mechanism, faster than things that really do cause accelerated atherosclerosis, like frequent cocaine use, for example. And he appears to be really good at one thing, and that is self-promotion. But he is not doing a good job of analyzing the science. And again, he seems to have an agenda. He has decided that this is the case, and he will cherry pick data. He will, selectively cite poor studies, doesn't put them into proper context. He's really making a terrible case, for his position. And over again, he has to be corrected by actual experts and scientists who do not buy the BS that he is selling. So don't believe him just because he's a doctor. He's a lone maverick out on the fringe. He's not reflecting the actual science. He's not reflecting the consensus of expert opinion. We have written multiple articles about this guy on science-based medicine. And if you want all the nitty-gritty details about all the science that he gets wrong, just look up his name on Science-Based Medicine website, and you'll get access to all of those articles. But in short, just don't believe it.
Cool. That's a good one. Straightforward.
Yep, that was pretty straightforward.
So we have the acupuncture one.
Yeah.
And the enzyme. We could do that one first. The acupuncture.
Acupuncture.
It's from the creator, Dr. Ids.
Ids,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me make sure I'm actually... Wait, is this full? Yeah, that's full. And this is Zoom. Let me go full screen. There we go. All right, I think I have the spot where he starts that. There we go.
Do we know what kind of doctor he is?
I thought he was an internist, but Dr.
Okay,
Ids.
that's probably correct.
Let's see. He has his MBBS, MRES. These are all like British things. Medical doctor, MRes, nutrition research. Let's see. Doctor, what kind of...
He's not a neurologist.
He's not a neurologist.
That's all I
No,
need
I'm
to know.
pretty sure he's not.
Yeah, that's all I really need to know.
Yeah, master's degree in nutrition research and is board certified in lifestyle medicine. UK trained medical doctor. So there you go. Very popular on TikTok.
Yep.
All right, here we're recording. Here we go. But the audio is not on. There we go. Let me go back a little bit.
Acupuncture for digestive issues. The use of ginger for nausea. Even acupuncture for migraines. Do you know why? Because there's evidence for them. Do you want...
I think that's enough, right?
Yeah, that's
we'll
fine.
just do that. All right, we're rolling.
All right. So Dr. Ids actually makes some very good points in this video. He very nicely pushes back against some big pharma conspiracy theory nonsense there. But we got tagged in this video because he made one comment about the use of acupuncture in migraines. I do want to push back against that. Now, I don't fault him for citing the reference that he does. And you have to be an expert to really understand why the data for acupuncture and migraine is not convincing at all. I am a neurologist. I'm an expert in migraine headaches, in fact, and I've written extensively on acupuncture. I've done a very deep dive into the literature, and you need these things in order to be able to understand why those recommendations are really not based on solid evidence. I've written extensively about this on Science-Based Medicine. Just look up for acupuncture in general or acupuncture and migraine. But just to quickly summarize the main points here. So first of all, what is acupuncture? It is sticking acupuncture needles into acupuncture points. The problem with that is that acupuncture points don't exist. There is no basis in either anatomy or physiology. They've never been proven to exist. And acupuncturists can't even agree on where they are. Even their own literature says they don't know. They're just guessing as to where they are. There's no internal consistency. Also, acupuncturists can't agree on which acupuncture points do what. So there's no internal validity. There's also no external validity. There's no validity to acupuncture itself. So how is it that the organizations can come to the conclusion that acupuncture works for something like migraine? Because they are looking at extremely flawed research and they are deferring to acupuncturists to tell them what that research says. That's the bottom line. So the acupuncturists play a lot of tricks in order to make it seem falsely as if acupuncture works for things that it doesn't work for. And I've read every acupuncture migraine study that's out there. I've done some analyses on science-based medicine. One interesting thing that you could do is look at which acupuncture points are used in each study. You'll notice that they're never identically the same, right? No two studies are using the exact same suite of acupuncture points. They use mostly different points. Sometimes there's some overlap. They might use some points in the same and some that are different. Why is that? Because they can't agree on what the acupuncture points are allegedly for. When you're designing the study, they just ask one or two acupuncturists who are involved in the study, which ones would you use? And those are the ones that they use. There's no literature to base it on. There's no actual scientific evidence to base it on. It's just whatever tradition that they use. And their traditions could be completely incompatible or completely different. Sometimes some use auricular acupuncture, some use other kinds of acupuncture. Another game that they play is that you will include things like electroacupuncture. What's electroacupuncture? It's electrical stimulation through acupuncture needles, which just means it's electrical stimulation, which, by the way, is a treatment for migraines. And so that muddies the water quite a bit. They also will use studies which are negative and claim that they're positive. How do they do that? Well, let's say you have 3 arms in the study. You have verum acupuncture, that's acupuncture. You have sham or placebo acupuncture. That's not acupuncture. That's just either randomly sticking needles into places that are not acupuncture points, or you're not even sticking needles in. You're just poking the skin with toothpicks. And then you compare that to either medication treatment or no new intervention or just no intervention at all. And typically what they show is that there is a difference between the acupuncture groups and the no acupuncture groups because those comparisons are unblinded. People know if they're in one of the acupuncture groups or not. But there's no statistical difference between the verum acupuncture group and the sham acupuncture group. Now, do some studies show that there is a difference? Yes. Those studies are usually poorly blinded, or they're not double-blinded, or they have some other major flaws in their methodology. The best studies never show any actual difference between acupuncture and fake acupuncture, because there is no difference, because all acupuncture is fake. But then they combine all those studies together, and like when the Cochrane, for example, which does systematic reviews of these kinds of studies, initially they said, there's no difference between verum and fake acupuncture, and then on a later review they said, there's a tiny difference. But that includes a lot of very dubious, low-quality studies. But again, when you look at the systematic reviews, they also say, but the quality of the evidence is really bad. So we have really bad quality studies, often not properly blinded, with completely inconsistent acupuncture points being used that generally show no difference between acupuncture and fake acupuncture. And then if there is a difference, it's teeny tiny and it's very inconsistent. So basically that is the kind of evidence we see when something doesn't actually work. We're dealing with the response rates that we're dealing with are all down at the level of placebo. They're not clearly separating from placebo the way, say, a medication that works, separates from placebo. So again, this is consistent with acupuncture not working. You combine that with the fact that acupuncture points don't exist, and acupuncture doesn't really appear to work for anything when you define it as separating from fake acupuncture, right? No one's been able to demonstrate in high quality, replicable studies with consistent, methodology that there's any difference between real and fake acupuncture, which is all compatible with the notion that acupuncture is an elaborate placebo and nothing more. And I don't recommend it based upon that thorough analysis. But if you just look at the low-quality studies that say, oh, yeah, there might be a difference here, and you go, oh, okay, you could try it, which is basically what they say. They don't say it's been proven to work. They go, it's not going to kill you. Maybe it works. You can try it. That's kind of the level of recommendation that it's getting. But when you really look at the details of this research, it's mostly consistent with the conclusion that acupuncture is just a placebo intervention.
Cool. Cool.
That will never go away.
Never go away. Is the audio choppy on Discord? I don't know. I started streaming also on Instagram, so maybe it is being a little choppy for the Discordians. I might change what I'm doing there. Somebody in our comments said, I've never seen a millennial pause at the end of a video. And I said, how dare you? That's a boomer break, not a millennial pause. Like at the end when you stare
What's
into
that? Just like
millennial pause is like at the beginning when you start recording, you like wait a beat and then you start talking. Whereas Zoomers are so used to their phones immediately recording, they just start talking immediately.
Right.
So there's been a meme of the millennial pause, like we know your age if you take a second before you start talking.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, they were saying that at the end of the video we do that.
Cupping
you do
is
that.
even
cupping.
dumber than acupuncture.
Oh God, yeah, that's just crazy. It's gotta hurt too.
Cupping is just bloodletting.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Yeah.
You bring the blood to the surface and then you bloodlet. It's literally bloodletting. And then it was rebranded as we're sucking the toxins out, which is also nonsense. But that's just a more modern sort of retcon of cupping. But it's nonsense. Kinesiotape, also nonsense. You know what kinesiotape is? Tape. That's what it is.
Duct tape. Hopefully not duct tape. I think that would pull off some skin.
Not duct tape.
Yeah. Something a little lighter. All right, let's see. We got this.
The thing about cupping, though, is like you're announcing to the world that you believe in pseudoscience because you get the hickeys all over
your back. It's like, hey, I'll pay for anything. It's like, okay, duct tape would work better, probably. Yeah, cover your whole body in duct tape, Michael Phelps. Swim right through.
I don't know if I'd want to put that directly against the skin.
Yeah, that does seem too powerful. All right, let's see. Oh, you know what? I forgot to ask you. Can you move the chair out of the screen? Because I see it in the... Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, the other ones are fine, but...
It's a microphone? I need to get that.
It's good. How about Reiki? Yeah, I think that's all.
Reiki, also nonsense. That's energy nonsense. That's like, I'm moving your energy around. Right. Okay.
It means
energy
cosmic
that doesn't
energy,
exist.
I think. Like, they're taking the cosmic energy.
All of these things are written about extensively on Science-Based Medicine.
That's true.
If you need the deets, but
SBM.
Yeah, Reiki is just a version of energy medicine. Vital energy, whatever, which again doesn't exist. These things are all done because people will pay for them. That's why. Dr. Was it Ids? He made a great point. He's like, people talk about big pharma. Big alternative medicine is 3 times as big.
Yeah.
Financially speaking, as big pharma. It's $3 trillion industry as opposed to a $1 trillion industry, something like that.
Yeah.
So be consistent at least. If you think that, all claims for drugs are bullshit because pharmaceutical companies make money off of them.
But they're the good multinational corporation.
Yeah. And they're telling you, believe me because I'm a guru. Don't believe the scientific evidence. Don't believe what all those experts say.
Yeah.
I believe here's a magic treatment that uses magic energy nobody can prove exists. But believe me, because I'm not big pharma. But I do make $3 trillion a year. He also made a point that, he's practicing in the UK. It's like, first of all, he's salaried. He doesn't make money by treating patients.
Right.
And the National Health Service is like underwater. They would, if there was a cheaper way to do something, they would freaking do it. The only reason why they're not recommending like herbs or whatever is because it doesn't work, not because like Reiki or anything like that. Like, well, the narrative is like big pharma can't make money off of it, so they suppress it. It's like, but that doesn't explain like the rest of the freaking world. Plus also big pharma does not run medicine, despite what you may think. There are lots of there's no monolithic one institution that runs all of medicine in the world or in the country or whatever. It's multiple different institutions, all at cross purposes, all with lots of people involved. There is no possibility of such a simplistic conspiracy. It's just all nonsense.
You also should make one of those bite-sized videos on everything listed in a Venn diagram of irrational nonsense.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. We could probably script that
that
out, figure out what to be like.
Sure.
This is BS. Read the article here. I mean, most of it's going to be like, watch our other video or look at SBM and see where we talk about it in detail. But that's cool. All right, let's get on to the last one.
Yes.
Here we go. We're going to start recording. Oh, TikTok picture in picture. I'll just go from the beginning, I think, right? Let me get the top of the thing. I cropped it a little bit too. Actually, that's fine. Oh, I know what it is. It's in here. It's cropped a little too aggressively. Screen share, this, that. There we go. That's close enough. All right, we're recording. Let me play it.
There's been a huge breakthrough today in medical science as a bacterial enzyme has been discovered to strip away blood types and create universal donor blood. What's even cooler about this is that it's made by a common bacteria that almost everyone has in their gut, so it's totally natural. And all you have to do is expose the blood to the bacteria. The enzymes will strip away the antigens from the blood, which is what creates type A, type B, type O, type C minus, whatever type of blood you have. I don't think that's a real type of blood. But we do have this lovely little diagram here where you can see the antigens on the blood. And this is why somebody with B blood can't donate to A or O or vice versa. I don't know all the specific rules as I am not an ER doctor. But I do know it's very dangerous to donate blood if you don't know what you're donating, because people will die. The body will reject it. But
is that good, or is there
That's
anything?
good.
Yeah, okay.
It's more than enough. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll cut it at the beginning. All right, we're rolling.
So this is genuinely interesting science, and I appreciate your enthusiasm in reporting this new science story, but it's not the massive breakthrough that it may seem like if you're just reading the mainstream reporting about it. So to put things into context, again, what the story is about is using enzymes to strip some of the antigens off of blood cells that cause the rejection that you get if you give the wrong blood type, donor to recipient. And the thing is, this is not really a massive breakthrough, and this isn't new. Scientists have been working on this for literally decades. This goes back to even the very beginning when we figured out like why certain blood types are incompatible with other certain blood types. Now, there's actually lots of ways in which people's blood differs genetically, but the ABO blood type is the big one, right? So you have the blood type A, B, or O means you don't have either A or B. And if you have they refer to these sugar molecules on the outside of the red blood cells. If you are blood type A, that means you make the A type antigen, which is something that reacts to the immune system. That you make that A type sugar chain or sugar molecule. If you have your type B, you make the B type chain. If you could be AB, meaning that you make both, or O, meaning you make neither. There's also, the positive or negative, which is a different, genetic protein altogether. But just sticking with the ABO groups. Now, if you make antibodies against whatever antigen you don't have. So if you make blood type A, that means you have antibodies against B. If you have B, you make antibodies against A. If you're O, you make antibodies against A and B. If you're AB, you don't make antibodies against either of them. So blood type O is the universal donor because if you give, their blood doesn't have either antigen, so nobody's blood would react to it. AB is the universal recipient because they don't make antibodies, so they can't give their blood to everybody to anybody else or to everybody else except AB types. They can receive blood because they won't be making the antibodies to either because they have both of those antigens on their own red blood cells. All right, so now if we could strip those sugar molecules, the A and the B sugar molecules, off of the blood cells, then we can turn blood into the universal donor O-type blood. That would be great because then we could just make the entire blood supply O-type universal donor. We don't have to worry about matching up, A to A or B to B or whatever. So again, this is an old idea. It goes back literally decades. The problem is finding enzymes that will break down those sugar molecules and do it thoroughly enough and without damaging the red blood cells so that it reduces their longevity, right? If the blood cells they're universal donor cells with no AB on them, but they only live for 3 days. That's not very helpful, right? Donated blood already has a bit of a shortened lifespan than the blood that you're making yourself. We wouldn't want to shorten it even further. Now, what the latest study does is they are using enzymes derived from a gut bacteria, because that gut bacteria makes enzymes against the mucus, and there are sugars on the mucus that are similar to the A and B, sugars on the red blood cells. And it turns out that they work pretty well against the A-type sugars. When they stripped them off, that reduced the reaction by the donor by about 60 to 80%. In the B-type, however, it only reduced it by 20%. So 80% still had a reaction to it. So again, it's not like it's not universal, right? You can't give it to everybody. It's still, a lot of people are going to react against that donated blood. So they had to figure out why that was, and it turns out that if you have A or B type blood, there's yet more sugars on your red cells other than just the one like primary A type sugar or B type sugar. And so we now need to make enzymes that will also strip those other molecules off the red blood cells. So they tried doing that, and it improved the the universal aspect of the blood. Like, so when you do that to the blood, fewer people react to it, but still it's not everybody. And so there's still more molecules that they have to identify. They still need to come up with more enzymes to strip those molecules off. Now, also, this is just asking the basic question: once you strip these molecules off the red blood cells, does the recipient, have a rejection reaction against them? It doesn't. We haven't done research with these enzymes to know what the effect is on the blood. It might be that they work, but that they destroy the blood or reduce the life span of those blood cells too much, or they cause other problems. So there's a lot of research to go. This was really an incremental step. We've discovered new enzymes which work better than the previous ones that we've tried. They get us a step closer to making blood into universal donor blood, but we're not quite there. And we haven't even tested it for safety and effectiveness yet either. So that has to be done, but only even after we get to the point where we are more thoroughly stripping the antigens off of the blood cells. So it's nice research. It's a good incremental advance. It was a smart idea to use the bacteria that have enzymes against the mucus lining of our intestine as a source for these enzymes, but we're not there yet. It's not a breakthrough, and we're not on the brink of transforming our blood donor supply using this technique. It's just a nice little incremental advance.
Alrighty.
Okay.
I think we did it.
That was 3.
That was a 3.
That's my quota.
That's the quota for the week. Any other questions in chat before we skedaddle? Feel free to hit up on the YouTubes and the TikToks and the Facebook and the Twitch and all the other places. I think we got through most of the. Yeah, there's some other ones that we can maybe save for next week, but those were the good ones. Those were really good. Let's see. Everything is incremental.
Yeah, everything's incremental.
That's true.
But some are more incremental than others. No, I mean, it doesn't get us over the finish line. Right? That's to a clinical application. So even though everything's incremental, sometimes it's like, yeah, but this one takes us over the finish line. Now we have a product, and that's not the case here. There's still at least 2 big steps away. They got to make it more thorough, and they got to make sure it's safe and effective. I have not played on Jay's table. I'm hoping to soon, though.
Yes, that is in the works, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, no, I have. Have I? Yeah, I think I did one time. One time. We did do a one-off kind of director's cut party thing where I did.
Mm-hmm. Volunteer for Awesome, I got your email, so we will respond to that. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's good. So let us see. We'll definitely be back next Wednesday for the Tickety Talks. There's also, I meant to send out the email and I didn't. I'm going to send the email right now on the stream for everyone. There is the Chicago show, the 1000th episode.
Looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun.
And now it is in...
We have the venue.
We have the venue. It is Naperville, which people are saying is not Chicago. It's Chicago-ish.
It's a Chicago suburb.
It's a West Chicago. It's not downtown. Unfortunately, the DNC,
The
is the
DNC
week
bought
after.
up every hotel room in the
Literally.
greater Chicago area.
Mhm.
Literally.
Yeah.
So this is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. There is a train apparently that you can get there, but also on the Discord, if you are a patron, you can figure out a ride share.
Yeah,
with
regular
everybody.
ride sharing.
Ride share is great, but there's a lot of ways to get out there. Bicycle, fish, I don't know, swim. East Seattle, more like it. Yeah, very East Seattle. So yeah, that's coming up pretty soon. So get your tickets. August 17th is the extravaganza, and then the 18th is the private show.
1000th episode.
Yeah, that's pretty
Unbelievable.
epic. So it's gonna be a 5-hour event. So I think that's it. If there's nothing else, the Mega Buzz. Yes, right, exactly.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us.
See ya next time on.
See you next Wednesday.
Skeptic's Guide to TikTok or something.
Yeah.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Mm-hmm.